point in time where you wonder, what's it all for? Because no great artist from Jesus Christ on down has been able to permanently change the world into the utopia that we would all hope it to be. The events of the past week alone tell us that there's always something lurking behind some shadow somewhere. And why people do what they do is the great mystery of all time. And so as an artist, you're always grappling with a great sense of futility. So it helped me at a very early age to sort of have my own experiences with surrealist art and understand how it impacted me and helped to shape my thinking. And then, of course, you go from everybody from Jim Morrison to John Lennon to Bob Dylan, inspired by Woody Guthrie down the street. And you start to realize that there's a sort of a narrative thread there that art is a sort of natural conversation, but it's usually treated in a political sense as dangerous or a nuisance. So even before I ever picked up a guitar, I had formed these ideas that art was a weapon, or art was a means to penetrate something that I didn't like. And so that informed my opinions very early on about what kind of artist I wanted to be. I think in the early days of the Pumpkins, I treated those things probably a little bit more sentimentally or surrealistically, to adapt the same term. It was like I could kind of poach from ELO and Philip K. Dick at the same time. I didn't really start to possess it as my own really until the Adore album, where it was about my own languaging, not sort of playing in other people's sandboxes, but making it my own language. And then you saw, once I really engaged in my own languaging, starting around Adore, then came this other level of criticism, this other level of, you're a stupid idiot. I'd already been through one version of it, now I was going through the second version of it, and now we're on version 4 or 5. But every artist of any true impact goes through it. And it's, you can, there's some book I saw once, I should have bought it, but I thought, no, I'll never read it, it's one of those. But it was like, literally the book was the critique of the time of things that became masterworks. Like some book or some movie that is now considered a classic, and it was just somebody just ripping it to shreds. So it was obviously the point being is that people can be wrong, and I've had plenty of experiences with people. Anyway, I'm rambling. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Why'd you stop blogging?
Honestly, I didn't. I obviously like to communicate, but I like to communicate if it has a commercial connection to it. I don't make music just to make music. I make music because I want people to buy it or interact with it in a way that generates more work. The blogging, at the end of the day, just did not change the game for the Monuments album. And you could argue, and these are arguments I have in my own head, that people don't buy records because they already know what they think it is. They buy it because they want to have their own version of the mystery. And maybe by revealing too much or saying too much about it, I took some of the mystery out of the process. Yeah. Or maybe if I had blogged, we would have sold less records. I don't know. But it didn't seem to really shift anything in the positive. And it's weird because there were times where I would put up a blog and we would get 15,000 people. We knew 15,000 people were reading the blog. But when you looked at the numbers on the album, there's nowhere near those kind of numbers. So it was just like, you didn't get the same return for value. So at the end of the day, it's not a good artistic enterprise. I would say right now the Periscope thing is probably a little bit closer. And maybe in a world where everything is moving so fast and people are absorbing information at light speed, maybe just the way somebody looks and the tone of their voice is actually more important than the words. We all do that. We click on somebody's thing, a blog, we'll read the first couple things. If it doesn't really connect with us, we're off it. If I got to sit there and compose something for an hour because I'm worried if I say something wrong in the 5th paragraph, somebody's going to run a clickbait article. Billy Corgan blasts, polar bears. You know what I mean? Something about the diluted, uncensored version, I think, is in many ways better.
Confirmation bias, right?
What's that?
You come in thinking something, and it's confirmation bias. If you're not immediately confirmed what your thoughts are, it changes your perception.
Look, I'm a nerd. You know what I mean? I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. And I think we all alter some part of our emotional or physical appearance. It's human nature to want to appear to be better than you are. I try to be a better singer on record than I am here. It's just natural. Here I have no choice. It's like it comes out of my mouth, I can't alter it. So I think there's something sort of engaging about just being a nerd. It's fine, And those people that need you to not be a nerd, I don't really have much time for anymore. That's the culture that's really building people with a lot of facelifts and a lot of butt jobs, boob jobs. The number one, I recently read the number one surgery for men, plastic surgery, is thigh implants or something. I know, I mean, sorry, calf implants. I mean, I actually have very nice calves, you know what I mean? And maybe I should show them off more because I'll get more action. Anyway, you understand my joke there. Sorry, you had a question. Okay.
Just what your favorite band to play with or tour with was?
That's a tough one. The Pumpkins as a unit is historically never really been that social with other bands. And we had some really weird experiences along the way where, like one time we played in Europe and there was a band sort of on the rise. They ultimately went nowhere, you know what I mean? But they had one of those moments, you know, where it's like, they're the new, like, and our record company talked us into having this band open for us 2 nights in a row at what was a really, really intense, the gig had sold out in 5 seconds. They had nothing to do with the gig, but we added them to the bill to make it even more crazy in the press and everything. And a week after the gig, the band, who I'd never met, and actually had liked their records, was blasting us in the press. Just blasting us, and we were like, not only did we give them a spot, so that really changed the dynamics for us after that. We were really afraid to let anybody in. And I've had other instances which some people might remember of people like, don't look them in the eye and all this dumb shit, like, what the fuck, what are you talking about?
Hey, don't cuss.
Because I heard you and falling out. And I read
Well, the falling out with Manson years ago was just personal life stuff. It was over his relationship. He's talked about it, so I don't remember.
Yeah, that was the article I read.
Yeah,
I talked to how you guys have recently gotten back together, and obviously you're back on tour with him. So.
Yeah, our friendship is exactly how it was before.
And you
It's
taught him
great.
how to play guitar, right? So.
What's that?
You taught him how to play guitar, is that what I heard correctly?
I wouldn't call him a guitarist. he's a guitar stylist.
So you're a shitty teacher.
He's very, yeah, exactly. He's a one-finger Johnny. Who else?
Well, Manson, I mean, he's coming out with he's going on tour with you. He plays kind of a heavier set of music than you come out with. How are you going to adjust your performance to kind of come?
You know, I think originally our thinking was we would probably play a little bit heavier. Really good. And just my general read of the culture, I think the people coming are going to be right up the middle. I don't think they're particularly goth fans. I think they're going to have a lot of people who haven't seen us for a while, maybe haven't seen him for a while. I think at some point it's like trying to play a certain way because you think you would. We just want to. It's pretty simple. I think if we just play the best show that we feel like playing, I think it'll be just fine.
Excellent.
And I know he'll play the best show because you know he knows that Pumpkin's audience is a very musical audience, generally speaking. So he's going to have a good show. You know? So it's good. It's great for both of us. So I'm sorry, you were going to say.
Oh, I was going to ask about songwriting. How do you create songs, lyrics, melody? I mean, where does it come from? How do you get inspired?
I have to say that most of the songs that I've written that are fairly decent, I had honestly no thought in my mind when I wrote them. Totally blank. Or I was thinking about something else. Like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, like with the piano or guitar, and it just came to you.
I wouldn't say it just comes to me because that sounds like it's a sort of an undiluted stream of information and I just sort of jump on. It's not really like that. It's more like if you sit at a piano and you just, and I play rudimentarily. Even words. Is it a word? And let's just say I'm just sitting there and just playing in a sort of a bored mind, like just do. I might, and I've done it before. Well, I'm playing a certain chord change that I like. It's all right. And I'll actually make a mistake, and I'll go, well, that's kind of interesting. Now instead of 400 roads, I'm going down one, and I'll go down that road, and suddenly I'm like, I like it, but it's too a Tin Pan Alley. So now I'm looking for a different chord. Now it's maybe a little bit more jazz. And I'm just feeling through. And again, roads appear. I could go left, I could go right, faster, slower. And then it's almost like my brain accelerates. And it's like all of a sudden I'm moving 1,000 miles an hour, and there's all these choices, and it's like boom, 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 boom. And that's why, I don't mean it to brag because it's strange to me, but songs like 1979, Today, Stand Inside Your Love, those songs generally speaking would come together in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it's like the Matrix. It's like coming at me so fast. And then, of course, later you go back and you might do something or add something or change something. 33 is another one. It came like that. So the closest thing I can akin it to is like transcendental meditation or something. You go into an alpha state or something of a higher consciousness with access to higher mind. But it doesn't I can't, I'm not a yogi. I can't sustain it. So it's like the sky opens up, stuff happens, and then boom, it's closed. Or the phone rings. And I come back later, and sometimes I look and I think, oh, it's awesome, and I just tweak it from there. And other times I come back and I thought it was so great, and I listen and I go, there's nothing there. So whatever experience I had within doesn't translate into an experience as a listener without. And I will say, as a slightly different tangent, one satisfying thing for me that you see with this acoustic tour is most people akin their understanding of a song to production. And you see a lot of music today that's very production driven. It's about the sound of the drums and the reverb and all this stuff. At the end of the day, I'm a songwriter, so it's very satisfying to play songs that I know people didn't connect to in their time, and now that they hear them in the undiluted form, they actually hear what I heard when I wrote it. Whatever that feeling is still intact in the song, like it's a sketch or something. And a lot of times I think that's what happens. People don't like my paintings, but they like my sketches. And there's something beautiful about the way the tour is leveling all the material